discrimination to me, not being able to have fair or equal rights to whatever it is that an individual is pursuing.
Discrimination, I guess, the most general sense right now would mean complete disregard for others' emotions. I guess it would be like explicit apathy. I think there's something, prejudice is feeling one way, but discrimination would be acting upon that prejudice.
I consider discrimination where you purposely go out of your way to harm or hurt another person that does not reflect your values, whether it's ethnicity, race, religion, gender, or any type of other status.
It has, because I massage people. They have to get undressed and get whether it's treatment or for relaxation or an injury. People of all ages, all races come in, and if they don't want to be massaged by me because of the color of my skin or my ethnic background, it would affect my career, because just the simple fact that they don't want to be touched.
I think one reason why it's made me succeed is because the color of my skin isn't on my resume. So for me, I think the one reason why I got some of these great positions in the great companies is because I was able to communicate through my past experiences and what was on my resume, like, hey, I am capable of being able to do this job successfully, no matter the color of my skin. You can never, you have things like LinkedIn, so you can never really tell whether or not the HR, the recruiting team, looks you up on LinkedIn, looks you up on Facebook, and is able to see what you look like. But I think that was one reason why I was successful, is because I was able to effectively communicate that I was capable of doing things in my profession, I guess, without them knowing that I was black, white, Asian, or native. Another reason I think why I was successful is because my recruiter was black. I didn't really see any other recruiters that were black. I saw one other guy. So it was one guy and one black girl that I ever saw at the company I worked for that were recruiters, university recruiters, and they were black. So I feel like that may have been a reason. Maybe she had looked me up and was kind of like, I want to bring more diversity into the workforce here at the company.
I don't think necessarily like within like OMAND, the Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity, has that been a problem. But I would say like in my other roles, like when I was doing wealth management at Wells Fargo, when I had people from MIT, Princeton, Harvard, who are all white guys, and they definitely act differently than I did, and I act differently than they did. But you know what? I was proud about that fact. But I think that although that my numbers spoke for itself, as far as I was making more money for the company they did, they still had more opportunities to move than I had. And that's one reason why I left the finance field to get into education, so I can make sure that doesn't happen to anybody that look like me again. So.
Well, I let my anger take over, and I I would, it's not fighting, but it's more of standing up for my rights, and it caused a lot of fights. And I think now as an adult, I have learned that a different way to fight. Um, and there's some people that are just ignorant, and there's nothing that I can say or do to change their opinion, change their mind, change their values. And so I just have to move on from these certain individuals that have a different point of view, whether we agree or not on certain things, or they just don't like me because of I'm a female, or because I'm from Pakistan, or because I'm fat, or whatever it is that they don't like me. and they have some sort of discrimination against me.
Feeling pissed off, of course, but I think that I've seen enough people act on that, like gut feeling, enough to see that hey, that's not the way to go. So it's more of like I can feel that gut feeling, and I think that's what makes me realize that it's an issue. But I think that like I always take it like not a step back, but I always like stay grounded and say, okay, well, like what can I do about it in like the smartest way. So yeah, if I see discrimination, people acting on that stuff, like in my gut, like the first thing I feel is anger, complete anger. Mm-hmm. The next thing I feel is, okay, well, how can I go about this smart to not feed into the negativity and, that kind of whole like all that negativity. Like I don't want to feed into it. I don't want to be another, mixed young kid, like feeding into the negativity and then all of a sudden, being discriminated on more again, or getting shot or something like that. I'm gonna have to like be a smart person about it, a smart minority about it. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily the thing that like, that's not like a good thing to have to be. Like I have to be a smart minority about the way I, respond to discrimination. Like that's stupid to me, at least. But I think it's what's necessary, at least right now, in order to make progress. There's like, in those instances, most of the time, you can make the discriminator, like look more stupid, by not acting out and just being smart about it.
My first initial response is to, I'm going to go from Pablo Freire, from the Pedagogy of the Press. I liberate my mind. Mm-hmm. I don't internalize what happened, but my action is not to attack. My action is to just, hey, I wasn't gonna say anything, but this is how you hurt me right now, mm-hmm. and say it in a very soft and subtle way, mm-hmm. where the person who did do that microaggression or racist act, they don't know how to act. So now, the internalization's on them to A, either respond back or B, walk away. Mm-hmm. But I didn't react the way they thought I would react, because usually when people do racist act, they're cowards. Because they expect that they want to get a reaction out of you. I don't give them that satisfaction. I don't internalize it, but I do it in a way that's smooth enough where the person is going to leave more hurt than I am.
Well, I would say that don't ever feel like your voice or what you do isn't enough, because it is. Your influence on standing up for what you believe is right can have an impact on the future, whether you believe it or not. Just do what you feel is right and always stand up for justice and equality, because standing up for yourself and standing up for your friends and family and anyone that you see who is injustice, who has experienced injustice or racism or any sort of discrimination, doing the right thing always outweighs the bad. And it takes one person to make a difference, and it could be you. And don't ever doubt yourself, and just do what you think is right, and no matter what anybody else says, no matter what your parents say, no matter what your friends say, no matter what the church says, do what is right, and what you feel in your heart is the right thing to do for yourself and for overall humanity.
I think the piece of advice that I could give is know yourself, know where you came from, represent well for it, be intelligent, be mindful, be aware, and act smart. Yeah.
It's from the words of Derek Bell from Ethical Ambition. He says this whole thing that the people who are doing the helping have to be just as careful as those who are doing the oppressing, because power in the hands of the helper is no more different than those that are doing the oppressing. Basically meaning that if you're fighting for equality, make sure that you're not getting neutralized, and make sure that you're not doing it for self-righteous reasons. Because self-righteous to me is poison. You want to be able to sustainable impact the community. For example, I had a mentor who his story always gets me. He went to Birmingham Southern College, where I graduated from, and there wasn't that many people of color looked like me on Birmingham Southern, and all the people of color, we all played sports. I'll be honest with you, and I remember this white man. His name was Joe. He used to come to my school every Wednesday when I was in middle school and help me out and tutor in math. Matter of fact, why I became an economist was because of Joe. And I remember, out of nowhere, Joe just disappeared. Joe disappeared. And I recall seeing him when I was in high school out, and he ignored me. So my voice is this for people fighting inequality. He came in with his whole, we're going to help. He advocated for me. But when it was his time to go, he left me high and dry. And then when he had an opportunity to see me and talk to me, why? He didn't say anything. It found out Joe used my story, my trauma, to sell him to get him to Harvard Law School. So, yeah, I just say, just be careful of ask yourself why you're doing this work. Like, why? Because people remember. That still has a lasting impact on me.